This is Logan Blackwood, reporting for International Desk. Last night, at one of the most closely guarded events in Washington, shots were fired. The White House Correspondents Dinner, the Washington Hilton, more than 2,500 guests. The President of the United States sitting at the head table, the First Lady, the Vice President, the entire cabinet, surrounded by the most sophisticated security apparatus in the world. 5 to 8 shots fired. A Secret Service agent hit, saved only by his bulletproof vest. Trump rushed off stage by agents. The cabinet evacuated. Guests crouching under tables. The smell of gunpowder drifting through a ballroom that, seconds earlier, had been hosting one of Washington's most celebrated annual events. The suspect, a 31-year-old man named Tomas Allen, had checked into the Washington Hilton the night before. He traveled there by train from Los Angeles. He was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and knives. He sent a manifesto to his family minutes before charging a Secret Service checkpoint. And according to investigators, he told law enforcement after his arrest exactly what his target was. Trump administration officials, prioritized from highest to lowest ranking. This was not a random act of violence. This was a planned, premeditated assassination attempt at the most heavily secured non-military event on the American political calendar. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happened inside and outside that ballroom last night, who Cole Allen is, what his manifesto said, and how close this came to being something far worse. Why this attack reveals a vulnerability at the very center of American political life, and what it means for a country already under enormous pressure from a war in the Middle East, a fractured domestic political climate, and a security apparatus being tested in ways it has not faced since 2024. Stay with me, because the full picture of what happened last night is more disturbing than any single headline has captured. Think about a bank vault. It exists for one reason: to keep its contents safe. Its walls are reinforced, its locks are layered, its security systems are redundant, guards at every entry point, cameras covering every angle. The entire design built on one assumption: that the value of what is inside justifies the maximum level of protection human ingenuity can provide. The White House Correspondents Dinner is the political equivalent of that vault. Metal detectors at every entrance, magnetometer screening areas, Secret Service teams inside and outside the venue, background checks for every credentialed attendee, a security perimeter designed specifically to prevent exactly what happened last night. And yet a man with a shotgun and a handgun rushed that perimeter, fired his weapon, hit an agent, and got close enough to a ballroom containing the president, the vice president, and the entire cabinet that guests inside could smell the gunpowder from their tables. Not because the vault failed completely, but because every security system has a checkpoint. And checkpoints are, by definition, the place where the outside world meets the protected interior. Cole Allen found that checkpoint, and he exploited it. Here is the complete sequence of events, in the order they happened, because the details tell a story that is more alarming than the broad facts alone. On Friday, April 25th, Tomas Allen checked into the Washington Hilton, the same hotel hosting the dinner, on the 10th floor. He had traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Washington, D.C. He had a shotgun purchased legally in August 2025, a semi-automatic pistol purchased legally in 2023, knives, and in his hotel room, handwritten documents, writings that investigators are now treating as part of a broader set of premeditated planning materials. On Saturday evening, as the dinner got underway, as more than 2,500 guests took their seats, as Trump sat at the head table for the first time as a sitting president, Cole Allen was preparing to move toward the checkpoint. Minutes before the incident, he sent an email to his family. The White House is describing it as a manifesto. In it, Allen wrote that law enforcement, hotel employees, and other guests were not his intended targets. His intended targets were Trump administration officials, listed by priority, highest ranking to lowest. He explicitly excluded FBI Director Kash Patel, who was also at the dinner. He wrote that he hoped it would not come to harming anyone else to reach them. He then charged the Secret Service checkpoint outside the ballroom. 5 to 8 shots fired. A Secret Service agent struck in the chest. His bulletproof vest stopped the round. Allen himself was shot, tackled to the ground, and arrested near a staircase that leads directly to the ballroom. Inside, CBS News correspondent Olivia Rinaldi, who was present at the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt in 2024, recognized the sound immediately. She said she could smell the gunpowder. She said guests crouched under tables as security teams moved through the room. Trump was rushed off stage. Melania Trump evacuated. Vice President Vance evacuated. The entire cabinet evacuated, and within minutes, the dinner was canceled. Let's go through the receipts. Receipt number 1, the attack itself, and how close it came to being something catastrophic. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia stated at the post-incident press conference that it is clear this individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could, and that the worst-case scenario was prevented because of the checkpoint right outside the ballroom and the fast response of law enforcement at the scene. That sentence deserves to be read slowly. The worst-case scenario was prevented by a checkpoint and agents who responded in real time. Not by intelligence that flagged Allen before he left Los Angeles. Not by layers of detection that identified him as a threat before he boarded a train. By the last line of defense. Allen had purchased his shotgun legally in August 2025, his handgun legally in 2023. Both transactions cleared the FBI's background check system without issue. He had no prior criminal record, no prior arrests, no flags anywhere in the system. A Caltech engineering graduate, a computer science master's degree. A teacher of the month at a tutoring center in December 2024. His LinkedIn described him as a mechanical engineer and computer scientist by degree, independent game developer by experience, teacher by birth. There was nothing in his visible profile that would have triggered a security alert. But here's where it gets worse. Allen's brother received the Manifesto email minutes before the attack. Alarmed, he called police in Connecticut to report it. The family notified authorities minutes before the incident took place. A warning was issued. Law enforcement was alerted. But by the time that information moved through the necessary channels and reached the people positioned to act on it, Allen had already charged the checkpoint. The warning existed. The clock ran out before it could stop him. And in those minutes, shots were fired at the most heavily guarded civilian political event in America. Receipt number 2, who Cole Allen is, what his manifesto revealed, and why the profile matters. Allen's manifesto, reviewed by CBS News, was written in a tone described as matter of fact, and at times almost clinical. He addressed hypothetical objections his readers might raise and provided written rebuttals for each. He wrote that he intended to use buckshot rather than slugs, specifically to minimize casualties to people who were not his intended targets. His sister told investigators that Allen had a long history of radical rhetoric. She said his conversations constantly circled back to doing something to fix what he saw as the problems with today's world. He attended a social justice protest in California and was connected to an activist group. He traveled to Washington not by plane, which would have required more intensive security screening, but by train. A 72-hour journey from Los Angeles through Chicago to Washington, D.C. He checked into the hotel the night before the event. He was a guest of the venue that was hosting the dinner. He had been inside the building for over 24 hours before the attack. And this is where everything changes. This is the third time in less than 2 years that a serious, premeditated attempt has been made on the life of a sitting or incoming American president. Butler, Pennsylvania in July 2024, Florida months later, and now this, inside one of Washington's most secured venues, during an event where the president, vice president, and the full cabinet were gathered in a single room. When asked if he believed he was the target of the attack, Trump responded simply, "I guess. These people are crazy." He then said the United States needs levels of security that probably nobody has ever seen before. What most people are missing is this. The 3 attempts do not share a profile. A long-distance shooter at a rally, a separate Florida incident, and now an engineer with a graduate degree, a legally purchased weapon, a handwritten manifesto, and a hotel reservation at the venue itself. Different methods, different backgrounds, different cities. What they share is a political moment, a period of political temperature in this country that is generating a pattern of targeted violence against its own leadership that has not been seen in this combination since the 1960s. Receipt number 3, what this means for American political stability and why the global implications extend beyond Washington. The White House Correspondents Dinner is an event that world leaders watch. It is a symbol. Every year, governments around the world register what it represents, the relationship between American power and American press freedom, the ability of a democracy to hold its most powerful officials accountable in a public setting. Last night, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, and Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum all issued statements condemning the attack within hours. Modi wrote that violence has no place in a democracy and must be unequivocally condemned. When 3 heads of government issue simultaneous statements about a security incident at a dinner in Washington, the signal they are sending is not just about sympathy. It is about stability, about whether the world's leading democracy can protect its own leadership in its own capital. and the timing compounds the concern in ways that are difficult to overstate. The United States is currently managing the most significant military buildup in the Middle East since 2003. 3 aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf, a naval blockade of Iran, mine-clearing operations in the Strait of Hormuz, collapsed peace talks, a ceasefire holding by a thread, and a commander-in-chief who, at this precise moment, is not just a political leader, but the central decision-maker in a military confrontation with global consequences. Any indication of instability around the U.S. presidency, any signal that Washington is distracted, divided, or under domestic threat, is read by every government, every adversary, and every intelligence service in the world. Tehran reads it, Moscow reads it, Beijing reads it, and they adjust their calculations accordingly. The attack last night did not succeed. The president is safe. The agent is recovering. The suspect is in custody. But the fact that it came as close as it did, inside a secured venue, past a checkpoint, with 5 to 8 rounds fired, will be processed by every government on Earth as a data point about the current state of American political stability. If this is connecting dots you haven't seen anywhere else, subscribe to International Desk right now. Hit the bell. Because this story is still developing, charges are still being filed, and the investigation into Cole Allen's motive and connections is only beginning. Here is where we stand. Tomas Allen, a 31-year-old engineer and teacher from Torrance, California, traveled by train to Washington, D.C., checked into the Washington Hilton, armed himself with a shotgun and handgun, and sent a manifesto to his family, declaring his intent to target Trump administration officials from highest to lowest ranking. He then charged a Secret Service checkpoint outside the ballroom. 5 to 8 shots were fired. An agent was hit and survived. Allen was shot, arrested, and is now in federal custody facing charges that are expected to grow significantly as the investigation expands. Trump is safe. But he said it himself. I guess I was the target. These people are crazy. And then he said the country needs levels of security that probably nobody has ever seen before. What that statement tells you is something important. The President of the United States, who has now survived 3 serious attempts against his life in less than 2 years, is not treating last night as a closed incident. He is treating it as a symptom of something larger. And based on the pattern of the past 24 months, he may be right. I'm Logan Blackwood. This has been International Desk. And this might only be the beginning.